Yousef, it is so wonderful to have you back here at Wasatch Academy,
I love it.
your high school where you graduate.
My entry to my American dream.
Yeah, and you have covered so much ground since you have come over here, and for you to have gone through the Seeds of Peace program and get the ideas from the people at Seeds of Peace, and your headmaster at your school in Palestine.
Who was my dad?
Yeah, to apply for an at an American boarding school, and you just sent out all of these notices all over.
Indeed.
And was Wasatch Academy the only school that responded to you?
Literally, yes.
I'm stunned by that.
The only one who bothered to send me an actual email done by a human being. The other ones were automated notes.
So this was back in 2005 or
2006.
2006, and you sent an email to our admission office.
Yeah.
And you Googled us.
Yep.
And
I Google. My college counselor at the Friends School in Ramallah gave me a brochure.
About Wasatch Academy?
Not about Wasatch, but a bunch of schools in the U.S.
Oh, okay.
So as I would research them, other schools would pop up. And as I started going from east to west, I found Wasatch. So no, this is it. And then I started writing, and then Shaylin Johnson responded, and the rest of the story followed.
Yeah, Shaylin Johnson, who was an admission associate at Wasatch.
Yeah. And she wrote, "You would be a great addition to our student body."
Yes.
And I took that as an acceptance letter. I told everyone, they want me. They said to me that I would be a great addition to their student body. And they said it was just an email, like you saw in the book. So don't put your hopes up. And I was not disappointed.
But it was Shaylin came up to my office and told me about you and asked, would we be interested in a student like him? And I said, you better believe we'd be interested. But the fact that she picked it out,
yeah,
and brought it to my desk, or else I wouldn't have seen it.
Yes. I think about that every day.
Yeah. So you need to get in touch with Shaylin.
Yeah, I gotta send her a note.
Yeah.
It's, you need to remember.
So I tell you what, before you leave today, we will go see someone who I know can help you find Shaylin. She is in California. She's married. She has children. But I don't have her address, and we can get that for you.
Yeah.
So.
And then after I left here, you grew, and I'm just so amazed and grateful to know that the school has grown and has done so well, because it makes me know that I can know and trust that others will have just the same opportunity that I was able to get from not only Gaza but from all over the world.
Well,
I know you care about that deeply.
Maybe it's our good fortune that we brought you, and because we brought you,
You got kids from Seeds.
The gods looked favorably upon us, because we grew from a school of 130, 140 to over 300 today.
Yes, absolutely.
And that's just in 12 years, 13 years. It is amazing. Yeah. So thank you.
And what's next, you think, for the school now? After 300 students and all the buildings, what's your biggest dream for the school?
Well, my biggest dream is that we sustain our vision. We have really reached out to be a global school. We have partnerships around the world. We have dual diploma programs at some of the top schools in China, and those programs are flourishing. And the graduates coming out of those programs are doing so well in American universities, and highly selective American universities. So we take a lot of pride in that. But what we're doing as a school, with the students that we bring here to Central Utah, you think, oh, in the middle of nowhere. But we bring them here and we open up their worldview.
Yes.
And my dream is to see this vision, this mission be sustained over time. That year after year, we're building, we're growing, and expanding our mission to impact more and more students around the world.
Well, I gotta tell you, I was really impressed with the questions they asked me today, and even afterwards, the questions were very telling that they are informed. And maybe that's because there's more access to news and information than in 2007, phones and all of that. But I was really impressed by how much they already knew. The questions were very precise and targeted. So don't you worry.
Well, thank you. And they hadn't read your book, and I guarantee you, once they read your book, they are going to want to ask you so many more questions. And, can we go to your book that you have just released, Words of My Father? You know, Yousef, I read that book, and I couldn't believe what I was reading. What your family went through there in Gaza, living in your family home of several generations, 300 years, and then suddenly to have it occupied with you living in it, with your family living in it, by Israeli soldiers, and the humiliations you had to withstand as a family. You know, just, you know, daily humiliations of being locked up in your living room. Your father was shot, you were shot, your brother was shot, and yet your father, through all of it, held you together. And your father, through all of it, maintained his position of promoting and advocating for peace, that peace is the solution. You know, he didn't respond with anger and retribution. He responded with love and just good faith and goodwill toward, you know, the people who were tormenting you.
But also for the sake of his children and the potential they're meant to meet. He didn't want that violence to define the fate of my brothers, my siblings, and me. Because in conflict zones, when you're a victim of violence, of a violent act, it's hard to come back from that. And you are angry and you want revenge and everything that follows. But then what is the question that my father challenged me and my siblings with? How about the other route? See the world, show the world where you come from, what you stand for, and what you can do with your life, as opposed to just, you know, die.
Again, just an extraordinary resolution on his part not to fight fire with fire.
Yes.
And, you know, to fight fire with, you know, just acceptance, love, forgiveness, and forgetting and moving on. And how he was able to hold the family in that, without the family revolting, and which takes me to your mother. Your mother, she had to have been so concerned for her family, for her children, for her husband, for herself.
She was.
Yet she stood by him. She did not say, you know, hon, I'm leaving you. I'm taking the kids with me. If this house means so much to you, here, have it. You can have it by yourself, but not with us in it. She didn't do that.
Not my mother.
She stood by her husband.
Yes.
And supported his principles.
Many times when we go to school, it's only her, alone in the house, and with my grandmother as well. So they had to endure the experience to its fullest with living under the occupation of the soldiers. And we get a break because we get to go to school for about 5 hours. So when we come back, she's there, the food, the lunch, she's telling, you need to study for that, you need to do this. So she was just, I couldn't be more grateful for everything she did for my dad, for the house, and for all of us. Yes, I think that she was the secret weapon behind him. Absolutely.
From your writing, I would have to agree with that.
Yes.
And your father unfortunately passed away. He had a heart attack.
Stroke.
It was a stroke. And you write about the moment you found out. And in those moments, your world blew up.
Sure did, yes.
And
But in that moment, I realized that it's no longer, it became more personal for me, that I want to do this. Because before then, at that time, I was in business school. I thought this is what I wanted to do. And once I heard the news and just knew that I lost my dad, I wanted to make everything he stood for and make it into my personal life, my professional life, and just turn it into a whole thing in the future. Just right then and there. But I wasn't quite invested in his message just yet. But only when I realized that he's gone, I felt that he deserves to live on. And I've been doing that ever since.
so in his death, the impact of his teachings really came home to you.
Mm-hmm.
And it was in those moments of sorrow and mourning you realized how profound his lessons were.
And he was the only winner, in my opinion. He did not take sides, he did not hate, he did not incite, and in the end he got his house back. The soldiers left. In the end, everything he said would happen, happened. So I saw with my own eyes that his philosophy is effective and it works. Hard, difficult, but incredibly meaningful and life-changing.
So the soldiers are gone,
Soldiers are gone.
and your mother is in the home.
And the land is there, the house is there, beautiful. We renovated it over the years. It wasn't easy because we went to court against the Israeli army, but nevertheless, we just went ahead and did everything every year, me and my brothers, week by week, month by month, year by year. And today it's a nice, wonderful place. Yeah.
And your
I
dad's,
hope you get to make it there one day.
I would love to.
Yes.
And I hope that the day
You'll be
comes
my guest of honor.
when I
Sure.
can stand on that ground with you.
Mm.
That would be phenomenal. Your father really felt that had he kind of consented to the soldiers' wishes to the family to leave the house, that the property would have been
Demolished
for
and
good.
taken over, yeah. Because what they do is, no one was here, so that's why we took it. And also my house was the highest one in the area, so for the soldiers, we thought that it would make sense for them to overlook the entire neighborhood, from the base all the way to the sea. Their base was, on just the first floor, and we went all the way to the third floor. As you read, they tried to stop him from building the second floor in 1997, and then he won the case. Why wouldn't he? And he ended up building the third one as well. Then the process of finishing stopped because of the Intifada. Then they ended up coming and taking over. But that's history now.
Yeah, so they didn't evict you though.
No, and that's the brilliance of my dad, because he became a sensation for international news. The way he spoke, his message, in the midst of the chaos, it was very unprecedented. And I think the soldiers struggled with how much attention he was able to get from outside international media, to the point that we received 250,000 letters from people from around the world, telling him, stay. Sometimes Jewish people, I'm Jewish, stay, you're doing the right thing, I support you, all of that. And so for the soldiers, for them to evict him, it needed to be on TV if they were to do that. So I think I don't know if I never got to ask him, but I'm imagining that he was so brilliant in the way that he brought everything together to make sure that no one finds any excuse to, have their way with him and kick him out.
So they didn't evict you, but they did everything they could to intimidate you, harass you, and encourage you to flee.
They would invent rules on the spot just to annoy us. Wake us up in the middle of the night for no reason, pretend there's there's an attack happening, and freak us all out, and then tell us it's just a drill. Make us walk in the cold outside. Many things they didn't need to do, especially that we are right there next to the base, so they know if we are to do something, they would see it right away. But my dad would never break, and he told them, "You will never succeed in making me hate you. This is my house. That's it."
But in reading about that period of time, he never lost his cool. He never lost his composure. He never returned anger toward them. He would express frustration, but never anger.
To him, that's the ultimate defeat. That is when he is defeated.
And then you had the extraordinary misfortune of being in the way of a bullet.
Uh-huh.
You were struck in the back and very well could have died. And this happened in your home, in the presence of UN workers.
By my mom, dad, and my grandmother.
And just out of nowhere, a very random bullet strikes you, aimed at you. And then what happens?
It wasn't random because they were just talking to the soldier, and he gave them a permit to enter to the Americans. So he knew what he was doing, very much. And then when that happened, the book ends with a letter to him.
Right.
I would like for him to know what I've decided to do with my life after that day, if he's ever cared or wondered. But after that, I woke up in a hospital in Palestine, in Gaza, and a week later I'm in Israel. And then, right then and there, I saw apparently my enemies operating on me, asking me which smiley face describes the level of your pain. And so that was another experience that would contemplate my connection with my dad and what he was trying to teach me all those previous years. Because it just kind of like all came together, my dad and them and the world really. And it at first it made me not whine and say this is it for me and all of that. I started with learning how to walk. If I had one course of physical therapy, I asked for 3, and that's what I did every day. And I was able to do it, of course, with the care of God, my good fortune, and my dad's support, and the very exceptional care I got from the Israeli doctors. So although one Israeli soldier shot me, many Israeli people were there to save my life, and I think there's a lot of lessons to take out of that.
You described the Israeli nurses there
Angels.
as angels.
Yes, they are.
Comforting you, soothing you, healing you.
Yes, that's what they have done, and it just shows me, it confirms my dad's views that we all are human beings, and we belong to the land, and we must find a way to share it equally and respectfully.
So in time, you're further aided in your journey by a organization that is heavily funded by Jewish supporters or people who are Jewish, and you have an opportunity to go to a camp in the United States, up in Maine, with Palestinian and Israeli and American youth.
Afghanistan, Pakistan, India, most conflicts from around the world. And not just Jewish donors. Their donors vary because there's Afghanistan, Pakistan, India, so it's much bigger than that. But it started because of the Oslo Accords, when people thought the Israelis and Palestinians are finally doing it and coming to the table, which that happened. But Oslo Accord was supposed to be the first step to the Camp David, which would take place in 2000, so 7 years later, after 1993, and that would fail. And my dad feels we will fail many times in making peace. Why do we have to go to war every time we fail to make an agreement? So we were just disappointed by that. But the Seeds of Peace experience, it was like, you know, you want to work out and be healthy, you go to the gym. My calling was peace and coexistence, so my lab and my gym was at the camp. I wasn't able to do any sports. The dialogue was my only activity. The dialogue, the conversation we Palestinians had with the Americans and the Israelis. And you know, at camp, it was my first time to represent my people in an official capacity, because each delegation meets their leaders before they go. At least they used to. So it was, I felt I had a responsibility to share my dad's views, my views, on behalf of not just me, but all the Palestinian people, because I feel that we are always misrepresented or underrepresented. When someone talks about us, they don't do us justice. And I am peaceful and enlightened because I'm Palestinian and I was born in Gaza.
So that camp experience really, again, reinforced your father's words to you.
Yes.
His words of wisdom, his words of peace, and tolerance and acceptance of others.
And it also allowed me to see opportunity and think creatively. And that's what I've done. Because when I experienced the Seeds of Peace and the dialogue and the fact that you can talk and debate and all of that, that's when I started thinking about Wasatch and coming to school, because I wanted more than 3 weeks to be able to think and, you know, expand on my thinking and know what kind of person I'd like to be. And that wasn't possible in Gaza due to the conflict. And so this is when I came up with the idea of writing to schools all over the U.S.
Well, I'm glad Shaylin responded.
I'm glad she did too, let me tell you.
You know, the other thing that I got out of the book is just what a very, you know, prankster-like child you were. You were a little, you were into it, and you just had fun. You had fun being a boy.
I just wanted to have fun.
Yes.
And I know it's too much for a kid from Gaza to say, but Gaza was a very beautiful place, and I believe it will one day return to being a beautiful place again.
And I'm sure with people like you.
Alexander the Great used to stop there. It's a very beachy area, so I take pride in that.
But you capture, your voice is so clear in this book, because I know you, Yousef, and as I was reading this book, there was no pretense, there was no trying to impose a voice over what your voice is. It was so authentically and beautifully you. The you I knew as a student at Wasatch Academy, and that I know today.
I'm very proud that I am giving an opportunity to share that authenticity, because I hope it will encourage others to do just the same, because they have nothing to fear. There's nothing shameful about being authentic and true to one's commitment. And this is something I really thank my dad for. You have a good cause, you're a good person, do it.
Well, the other thing though, and you don't get into this much, you know, most of the book is about your life there in Gaza and getting to a point where you come to the United States. You're accepted to Wasatch Academy, you become a student at Wasatch Academy, and then you quickly go through your college years. But what in watching your journey as an educator who had worked with you, I was amazed at how you kept going. And that this doesn't come out in the book as well as, because I don't think you were wanting to overwhelm the truer message of the book with your story of the American journey. but you had to overcome so much. You were constantly in a situation where you were forced to really rely on your own wit and resources, and you never gave up.
No.
If you had a failure experience, you got up, you kept going, you kept knocking on doors. And as opportunities presented themselves, you would seize those opportunities and then keep just struggling and moving forward to where you are today. And for me, that is such a phenomenal story. And I hope someday you can, really share that story more fully, because that is why I admire you so much.
So I didn't want to focus on me as much as I want to focus on my dad.
Yes.
And his view, but
Very obvious.
I ended to be continued, and I have everything that I've went through in the U.S. I will bring to life in the second book, part 2. But just giving up was never an option, and I think it's faith. I had faith in myself despite everything I've done as a kid, and I saw another light. And I think the fact that I was saved and I didn't die just gave me a different vantage point at everything in my life. Yeah.
Your life is a gift.
It isn't a gift.
And you're demonstrating to everyone what one can do with the gift of life.
Indeed.
Yeah, so I love how you finished the book with a to be continued. And I really cannot wait to read that next part of your life, that next book that you produce.
I look forward to that.
Yeah. And Yousef, for you to come out to your alma mater here and speak to these young high school students who are very much like you were when you were a student here, with all kinds of things on their minds about what they're going to do this weekend and who said what to whom and am I keeping up with my history assignments. You were there.
I was.
But you stood in front of them and they got to see, I feel, who they could become.
I very much hope, and I have every confidence actually based on what I saw today, that they will be where I am today, if not in far better places.
Well, I just want to thank you. And as the head of school at Wasatch Academy, I just take enormous pride in you, Yousef, as a graduate of Wasatch Academy, and all of the wonderful students who've graduated, who've gone on to really give full expression to their humanity just as you have. And I congratulate you, and again, thank you.
And I congratulate you, and I always tell people that we have the same name, and we are both middle children in our families, so it just makes sense.
Yeah, well, thank you. I feel very honored with that connection.
Thank you, Mr. Loftin.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for your mentorship. Thank you.